You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Spring football is in the rearview mirror. We'll be doing our spring recaps. But with spring football in the rearview mirror, and especially with the portal window now closed and having a much better sense of how rosters are going to look, Vegas is updating point spreads for the fall. Now, I want to be very clear that this is not a be-all, end-all. Lines I fully anticipate will change between now and kickoff of a lot of these games. Sometimes games are what they are and lines are what they are just to generate action and will adjust as such. It's just really a fun thing to look at right now as we are getting a better sense of what teams and rosters are going to look like and what expectations should be as of right now. Remember, right after last season ended, there was an early line put out on LSU Florida State. It had Florida State as a slight favorite, like a 1-point favorite. Well, odds have been updated, and the latest odds for LSU Florida State, the opener in Orlando, have flipped and now has LSU, this is at Caesars, has LSU as a 1.5-point favorite in the game. And this is also at FanDuel as well. Has LSU as a 1.5-point favorite over Florida State in Orlando on that Sunday game on September the 3rd. So what that certainly shows, and keep in mind, Florida State has Bill Connolly at ESPN puts out his returning production metrics. So he looks at all of the returning production in college football and ranks the teams. We've gone through this. Florida State is number one in the country as far as returning production. And they return basically everybody on their offense and basically everybody on their defense. It's something like 96% of their returning production. LSU's number isn't quite as high, primarily because of the defensive side. Remember, no B.J. Ojolari, no Micah Baskerville, no Joe Fouché, no Jark Bernard-Converse, no Mekhi Garner, no Ali Gay, no Jaquelin Roy, right? You lost a lot of players on the defensive side. So you lost no Jay Ward. You lost a lot of your defensive production. Now, I would argue and have argued and will continue to argue that even despite losing all of those players, I think LSU's defense is going to be more talented in 2023 than it was in 2022. You lose a lot, but the reinforcements coming in, your players are going to be better than you were last year. Yes, B.J. Ojolari is a great player. Ali Gay played a lot of football for you. Jark Bernard-Converse, Mekhi Garner, good cornerbacks who played a lot of football. Jay Ward played a ton of football here. But I look at LSU and I go, man, you add a guy like Omar Spates, who was all conference in the Pac-12 as your inside linebacker, and you're moving Harold Perkins inside, and you've got West Weeks, and you've got Greg Penn, and now you're bringing Whit Weeks and some of the other reinforcements on the inside. Love it. It's impossible to ignore the reinforcements you've brought in on the defensive front. We've talked about all the defensive linemen, Jordan Jefferson, Jalen Lee, all those guys. Paris Shand. That's not even including the edge guys. Ovi Agofu's a 6th-year guy. Braden Swinson from Oregon coming in. The defensive backs you've added are all guys that are more talented, like will be higher projection at the next level. J.K. Johnson, Deuce Chestnut, Zai Alexander, higher projection at the next level than the guys you brought in this past season. The question is, with so many new parts on the defensive side, can they all come together and play as one? Like, that's just the big lingering question you have defensively, but you should be more talented. And so I look at it and I go, that's what Vegas is seeing, right? I mean, they're looking at LSU and going, yeah, like, your roster is going to be better, and it's still a neutral site game. Like, playing in the Superdome wasn't a massive advantage for LSU last year. As much as we've talked about that venue, Florida State brought a ton of people, and it wasn't an overwhelming LSU crowd in the venue that day. So It's shifted. It'll be very interesting to see because the portal window isn't closed, right? I mean, the opportunity for players to enter the portal has closed, but you still have players in the portal that will join rosters, and you'll have graduates. You will have guys transfer as graduates and pick other spots. So could LSU add a safety? Could LSU add another offensive lineman? Is there another player out there, a tight end, a veteran tight end LSU may add? Maybe. So that could still change. And then, of course, unfortunately, you have injuries that happen. That's a part of football. I mean, Mason Smith played one defensive series last year against Florida State. You're going to have him. Knock on Formica. You don't want any of that to happen, but it could. So that's always, that's going to be very interesting. I don't know that LSU or Florida State's rosters change dramatically between now and the opener. So you're probably going to see something close to a pick 'em, a point, inside of a field goal either way. If it's LSU, Florida State, maybe as we get closer to the game, like that week of the game, you may see action that causes that line to move. Remains to be seen. But I feel really good about LSU in that football game, as I think many of you do as well. That weekend, though, that opening weekend of college football, a lot of the odds that are out, it's interesting because I think this illustrates just how big the LSU-Florida State matchup is going to be. On that Sunday, standalone, right? Only game on Sunday, prime time. Look at the other projected point spreads from week one. Navy and Notre Dame play in Dublin. Notre Dame's a 21.5-point favorite. Nebraska, Matt Rule, his debut at Minnesota. Minnesota's an 8-point favorite. Florida goes to Utah. Pretty good game in the Swamp last year. Utah's a 9-point favorite. That's a Thursday game, by the way. South Carolina and North Carolina in Charlotte. That's a 1.5 toward the Tar Heels. Coach Prime's debut opens up at TCU. Played in the championship game this past year. TCU is a 21.5-point favorite over Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffaloes. Now, he's going to add a lot of players. We'll see how much that may change. But that's a 3-touchdown line. Got Miami against Miami of Ohio. Penn State is 16.5-point favorite over West Virginia. Clemson 10.5 over Duke. Get my point? You got some nice matchups on paper opening weekend, but they look like blowouts, all of them, except LSU Florida State, which is the one that's going to be super, super appealing to the college football masses. Not just opening weekend, but there were some other notable lines that have been published. And shout out to our buddy Michael Cobble over at WBRZ, who did tweet these. These are courtesy of sportsbetting.ag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 LSU spreads have been listed for this upcoming season. And this is a little jarring. LSU 9 at Mississippi State. LSU 12.5 against Arkansas. LSU 4.5 at Ole Miss. LSU 17 against Auburn. LSU 16.5 against Florida. We talked about the schedule and how the schedule flips to LSU's favor because you get Florida, Auburn, A&M all at home in the odd number of years. Yes, you got to go to Bama, but look at those spreads. I mean, LSU is a 3-score favorite over Florida and Auburn in Baton Rouge. They don't have A&M listed, but in your road games at the Mississippi schools, you're a road favorite in each of those games, and you're double-digit favorite against Arkansas as well. So the schedule works very much in LSU's favor. LSU's going to be a favor at Missouri, of course. We just said they're a 1.5 choice against Florida State. The only game where you're not going to be favored is Alabama. And I'm going to tell you, the early line on this game from sportsbetting.ag, the LSU at Alabama, is Alabama -7. They got Alabama a touchdown favorite over LSU. I'm going to tell you right now, gobble up them points, y'all. If you're a sports bettor, if you're not, cool. But if you're looking for value, you're not likely going to get a better number than LSU +7. Because as the season goes along, if you look at LSU's schedule for 2023, I mean, we just went through all of the spreads, right? When you look at LSU's schedule, and they're double-digit favorite in basically every SEC game. They play Florida State, Grambling, double-digit favorite or 9-point road favorite against State, 12.5 at home against Arkansas, 4.5 against Ole Miss. They'll be a favorite against Missouri, 17 against Auburn. They play Army, and then they play Bama. Like, LSU should be dump trucking people. They beat Florida State. They're playing that. They're undefeated when they play Alabama. So my point is, like, that line may move by the time you get to that game in November against Alabama, but it's going to move toward LSU. That line ain't going to grow. LSU's going to be undefeated and rolling. By the way, Bama's got Middle Tennessee, Texas at home, South Florida, Ole Miss, at Mississippi State, at A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, open date LSU. What if Bama slips up against Tennessee going into their open date? You can see that line come down. So my point is, by the time we get to November, you're not going to see a number bigger than 7. So if you want LSU and a touchdown, jump on it now. Some of those early lines for the upcoming college football season. Can't get here soon enough. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.